Hola bafethu, hola bafethu, hola bafethu. Listen, that's one of the best intros that has ever come out of South Africa. Stole that whole thing from Zegeze. Anyway, guys, welcome to it. The first installment of an idea of a show that I've been sitting on for a very long time, and I just thought, you know what? Now is a better time, is as better a time as any to just start something. This is what I'm gonna call fights and stuff like it, and so on and so forth and stuff like that. Look, I know it's not an original name, right? Sounds and stuff like that we know from the legendary Eddie Zondi. Chandra van Wyk on PNC has sports and stuff like it. I'm calling this one fights and stuff like that just for now. I don't know if that's a name that's gonna stick because I really do not have a name for this thing that I'm trying to do. Maybe it might just be fights and so on and so forth. Fights and things of that nature. I have no idea. All I know is I like talking about combat sports, man. I like fight sports. Peeps that know me know I train Jiu Jitsu, I train mixed martial arts and everything else, and it's a passion of mine. So I thought, why not just do a show that I'm just gonna cover everything that's happening in the fight sports world that I can get information on, everything from the UFC to Jiu Jitsu competitions locally and internationally, MMA fights that I can get information on locally and internationally, and bring it to you guys so that there's more attention to the sports, more attention to all the different disciplines and codes of the sport, and just general information about what's going on, who fought who beat up who's doing what, so that you guys can get more information, hopefully be interested in the sport, and yeah, man, let's have fun doing growing in this journey. As I learn, you learn, we learn together. So yeah, I hope it's gonna be fun. Tell everybody that you want to tell about it. I want to be dropping these episodes every single Monday on Instagram, YouTube, and wherever else that you catch me, TikTok, whatever. So yeah, man, this is it. Fights and stuff like that. Let's get straight into it. I got my notes here so I can look very professional as I do this, because I'm trying to look like I know what I'm talking about. If I'm gonna be talking about the very first thing that happened in the world of combat sports, I have to talk about UFC 311, the first UFC event for 2025, and it had a stacked, exciting card with very amazing, talented fighters on there. I'm talking Jamal Hill versus Jiří Procházka, Merab Dvalishvili. I hope I pronounce his surname correctly because it's very, very confusing. Merab Dvalishvili versus Umar Nurmagomedov, who carries a very, very intimidating surname, if you know what I mean. And of course, the main event with Islam Makhachev and Renato Moicano. What an amazing, amazing, amazing card that was. Let's get straight into it. First up, Jamal Hill versus Jiří Procházka on the main card in UFC 311. This is a fight that I was very, very excited to see because Jiří has been doing quite well in the UFC for a very long time. And Jamal Hill, he had a great fight streak, but his last fight did not really go so well for him. But the common thing between both men is that, of course, they both fought and fell at the hands of none other than Alex Pereira. Man, they fell down just like dominoes. They both fell at the hands of this man, and I think with both fighters, they had something to prove to each other, that who's the best man. And it was a great fight. It was a war. At first, Jiří Procházka looked like he was controlling the better part of the fight, the pace and everything else. And then Jamal Hill was also doing his thing. But the thing about Jamal, what I felt in that fight, is that he was just reaching too much and just overplaying his hand a little bit too much, and that caused Jiří Procházka to time him well, to read his movements, to see exactly what he was going to do, because he was telegraphing a lot of his stuff. It became a real war, right? It was going incredibly well for Jamal Hill until they got to the third round. Now, I think the thing about Jiří Procházka is that, I don't know, man, he has a very unorthodox way of fighting. and it's very difficult to figure him out. And it looks like if you check his history in a lot of his fights, he thrives in like chaotic moments. You know, it always has to be a war when Jiu Prohaska is fighting. He will, you know, he will throw down untari face, see that man. He will throw everything, the kitchen sink, the snaifi, the cot bottle, the case, everything at you. And he did exactly that to Jamal Hill, and that proved to be a little bit too much for Jamal, and he ended up finishing him in the third round with a technical knockout TKO, Baba, flattening him out on the floor. Took his back, just kept hitting him, and then referee decided, hey, that's it. You still have to have a career the next day and whatnot. We don't want you here laying on the ground like we have just spilled spaghetti. I don't know if that's supposed to make sense, but kind of looked like spaghetti on the floor there. Jiu Prohaska took that, finished him in the third round. It was an incredible fight. I enjoyed watching it, and big up to Jiu Prohaska as well for you know, bringing his fan, I just forgot the fan's name, who's I think suffering from cancer and everything else, and Jiu Prohaska shaved his hair off in support of his fan and you know, life-threatening disease that she says she's going through. So big up to the dudes, man. Poatan was looking at them from the grandstand, you know, just going, I'm gonna need to use my belt on you. That was a funny moment, but that's it, man. Jamal Hill and Jiu Prohaska, great fight. I enjoyed that. Let's get on to the next one. And of course, the co-main event of the evening between Merab Dvalishvili and Umar Nurmagomedov, who carries a very, very intimidating surname, because you know who trains him, right? Khabib Nurmagomedov, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, they are cousins or stuff like that. But I can tell you one person that was not intimidated by that surname, and that is Merab Dvalishvili, man. There was definitely bad blood between these two at the beginning, because, you know, there was like things that was said outside of the octagon. I think at some of the media events where, what's his name? Umar said Merab is like an old man or whatever. And Merab said, look, just because you carry the Nurmagomedov name does not mean you can beat me. And we saw exactly what he meant when they both got into the octagon. That thing was, such an amazing fight, man. Both guys were out there, but here's the thing about Merab, right? I don't know what they feed that guy in Georgia or in his training camp, because this guy's pace is absolutely insane. Now, I take nothing away from Umar, because he's an incredible fighter. He's been trained by, you know, literally one of the best fighters to ever walk into the octagon, and he's great. I mean, you can see just also by his history in the UFC and his MMA career all together. But the thing about Merab is he puts that pace on you. He throws everything, and the kitchen sink and the toilet and the debit orders. He even throws his heartbreak from like past exes. That guy throws everything at you, and he did that to Merab. Now what's his name? Umar. And in the first 2 rounds, man, look, Umar was holding his own, right? He was holding his own. He was, he was managing the distance, trying to read the guy, trying to read Merab, see where he's going and everything else. Merab was also doing the same, you know, trying to read Umar's energy and everything else, and not telegraphing his attacks and all of that. And the fight went well for the first 2 rounds, right? Now, when it carried on to the second and the third, Umar was just putting that pace, everything, witness the fitness, witness everything. He threw his beard at him. Like, it was an incredible fight, man. And at the end of it, you could see that Umar was just spent. Merab looked like he was still in the first round by the time they hit the 5th round. And Umar was just, he was just spent. He was telegraphing. He was visibly fatigued. And Merab was just shooting all the time, like, jab, hook, shoot, jab, shoot. He was just shooting all the time. Look, if this guy was Bob Marley, he would have been like, yeah, I shot the sheriff and the deputy. In that same exchange, he still had the energy to showboat. At some point, like when they were against the cage, he was talking to Joe Rogan and them, like the media team, saying, good fight, huh? Good fight, huh? I don't know what I did the voice. He just had an incredible amount of energy. I don't know how he gets that, how he can shoot, how he can still strike and still maintain that level of energy to still showboat. Now, the fight went all the way, and it ended up going to decision, and it was a unanimous decision, and still champion of the world, Merab Dvalishvili. I take nothing away from Umar because he is an incredibly talented fighter, and I cannot wait to see what he's going to be doing in the UFC going forward in the sport. I think he has prospects of becoming one of the best in the game, but we'll see how it goes. It didn't go well for him this time around, but we will wait and see how he does in the greater part of his career going forward in the UFC. But Merab Dvalishvili did his thing, took the boy, took the decision, got the W. And then, of course, the main event of the evening, sanctioned by me. I honestly did not have to do the face and the voice. But anyway, I am talking, of course, about Islam Makhachev versus Renato Moicano. The fight was actually supposed to be Islam Makhachev versus Arman Tsarukyan. I really hope I'm pronouncing the surname right, because these surnames, they're very difficult to pronounce. So I don't know, Tsarukyan or something like that. He was supposed to be fighting him, but the guy unfortunately hurt his back on, I think, that like a day before the fight. And I don't know how you do that, because like, what are you doing? You're not supposed to be training yourself before you go and fight. And the guy looked really, really great. I watched the weigh-in, and they both looked shredded as all hell, and he looked like he was ready to take on the fight. But unfortunately, he couldn't. Maybe it was a recurring injury. I have no idea. Now, they had to find another opponent for Islam Makhachev, and they found none other than Renato Moicano, who took the fight on 1 day's notice. Now, big up to him for doing that, because this was a title fight. This was not just an exhibition fight or, just any other, fight. It was a big opportunity, a title fight. And I think, just like any other fighter, he is working towards being a champion. Every single fighter wants to work towards being a champion. And if you get an opportunity like that to fight the, pound for pound best fighter in the world, man, you just, get up and go and do it. So he went up in to replace Arman Tsarukyan, and he faced Islam Makhachev. And man, look, it was a great fight. It was an amazing fight, but you could see who has the upper hand. I mean, Islam Makhachev, undoubtedly, we've seen the fights that he had on how he destroyed, Dustin Poirier. That was an amazing fight. He destroyed Charles Oliveira. He is on, I think, a 15-fight win streak, and this was his 16th fight, if I'm not mistaken, just winning 15 fights straight, one loss in the UFC in his whole career. Stand to be corrected on that, but I think it is one loss. Now, he went against Renato Moicano, and he proved to be the better man, because he is indeed the champ. He took him on. There was a moment in the fight where it looked like Renato dropped him with a hook, but when you look at it at the other angle, he actually slipped. And then he got up. What's his name? This guy, man, Renato Moicano tried to shoot on Islam Makhachev. Bad idea, just bad idea. You do not shoot at that man if you do not know what you are doing, because he will catch you. And that is exactly what happened to Renato Moicano, man. Islam Makhachev caught him, and he put him in a devastating DOS choke, which, nobody has been able to get out of that. It is, that thing will have you pooping on yourself. Like, I can imagine. And I've been in a dust choke before. I know what that stuff feels like. He caught him there. We know how great grapplers these Dagestanis are, of course, under the great guidance of Khabib Nurmagomedov. And he finished him with that devastating DOS choke. The guy had to tap, and it was over just like that. But big up to Renato Moicano for taking up the opportunity and actually fighting Islam Makhachev. It is not an easy fight, and it is not a walk in the park. And big up to him for taking on that opportunity. Now the world know his name. Now the world is looking at him to see what he's going to do in his career going forward in the UFC. And still on the throne of the championship remains the one, the only Islam Makhachev, and still champion at UFC 311. That's how it went down. All right, that's all, folks. That is it, man. The first installment of fights and stuff like that. Like I said, I don't know if I'm going to stick with the name. I might just change it to something else. I might change it to whatever. And if you think, there's a better name that you can call for the show, like Big Head and stuff like that, Mega Mind and stuff. I don't know. Give me a great name, man. But I want to do this as often as possible. I want to drop an episode every single week talking about everything that's happening in combat sports, Jiu Jitsu, MMA, boxing, if I can, local and internationally, man, because I believe we need eyes on everyone, not just the UFC, but people in Versus, people at Submission Kings, so that we can just, build a bigger community, build these athletes' names up, and build the sport, the combat sport status in South Africa. And then, because we do have talent that we can present to the entire world. We can do that. Hope to keep this going. Catch you on the next one. Peace, and much love. My name is Obakeng Mure. I didn't say it in the intro, but it is everywhere that it's supposed to be. Peace, much love. See you in the next one. Que le rata, que le rato, la love. Hey, tada.